Alrighty, I had this all done, and then my neighbor pulled up in a truck, and my dog started barking, and I'm starting over. So chapter 5 will not take as long as chapter 4. Chapter 5 is on recruiting, and to properly recruit, you really need to think about where you are going to find the kind of person you want. Rather than just scattershot, say putting, an ad out there on Facebook and promoting it and hoping that the right people see it. If Facebook was the place where the people you wanted to talk to are, then you would actually go and post a notice in the groups where the exact kind of people you're looking for. So, for example, if you needed summer counselors, you might go to some of the ASU websites. Some of the ASU community has a bunch of different Facebook pages, and you might actually post actual announcements in those pages. And also, you want to think about what kind of motivators that the volunteers need. Remember, they aren't getting money, so you have to think about how do you talk to them to make them want to come, right? So you got to talk about what you know that they're interested in. So, for example, if you need volunteers to read to kids, you want to find people that have a track record of loving working with kids. And that may be that you are looking at, Sunday school teachers, for example, or you may be looking at coaches. Maybe there's a coaches association, people who like to work with kids, and so on. You could make a list of all the different places where there are people who like to work with kids. The noise in the background are dogs. I've got my squirt bottle that hushes them up until I'm done. Okay, so now you're thinking about all the places that you could go. You need to think about maybe what particular skills a position requires. Sometimes where you go depends on where you're going to find those skills. So what if you need a medical professional? Well, there's medical associations. There's a doctor's association. There's nurse associations, nurse practitioner associations. If you need nurses to work with kids, there's actually a pediatric nurse association and so forth. If you need a volunteer a bookkeeper, there's bookkeeping and CPA associations. If you need a marketing or advertising person to help you, there are marketing and advertising professional associations. So if you need to figure out where those are and approach them, ask them to put something in their newsletter or on their webpage, etc., you're just going to need to Google until you find those associations. Now, the picture up here from Asian Pacific Community in Action is a really good opportunity to talk about what if it's kind of hard to find someone. You need to find someone who's a medical interpreter, but who happens to speak Asian Pacific Community languages as well as English. That's going to be a little bit harder. I'm going to suggest just the things that I think about when I think about this. So first of all, the Asian Pacific Community keeps a very large newsletter list of its own community. Some of those people will, in fact, be good at both English and their native language and working in the medical profession. And so I would use their very own newsletter to advertise for this. I would also look at the university system. There are language departments that teach Asian Pacific Community language and actually Asian Pacific Community history and so forth. And those people are going to be connected to the Asian Pacific community, and they might be able to help you, give you some ideas about what publications the Asian Pacific community might read that you might be able to get a free volunteer advertisement into. Maybe there is a specific, maybe there's like on a local radio show or one of the TV stations that Cox has a lot of, now that we have so many channels, there might be a local Asian Pacific show somewhere that you might be able to tag along onto. But at any rate, you're going to have to be a little bit creative. There might be more other organizations besides this one that work with the Asian Pacific community. And also, no reason not to look and see if there's a Medical Interpreters Association. And there might also be among the just the medical community, the general medical community, there might be some folks who speak these languages. So it's not as easy as if you're going out to look for people who want to be coaches, but there are still places you can go. Okay, so the last thing I want to mention is you need to make it easy for potential volunteers when you're recruiting them. You need to make it really clear what the volunteer job is. That's why you want to have a job description. You need to make it clear who they can talk to get questions answered or to hook up with a volunteer opportunity. In other words, a point of contact and engagement for potential recruits. And you need to give them, to someone to do that who actually has the time to respond. This is really the crux of it. In the chapter, you will see that there are different sorts of different modes of recruiting. I'm not going to go over them here because they are in the chapter. But when you are thinking about which of those modes to recommend, think about which one is most suited to the kind of volunteers that your organization needs. And just, use your best judgment. I trust you on this. All right, if you have any questions about how to recruit for your particular organization, feel free to post them on the Blackboard discussion board where I've left room for those questions, and also feel free to shoot those questions off to me. Okie dokie, this is Chapter 6.